So hello and welcome to my session for Create a Development Environment for PowerShell Universal. My name is Konstantin. Firstly, thank you to our sponsors. Without them, this event would not be possible. So my name is Konstantin, as I said. I'm a senior systems engineer at an MSP, worked there for 9 years. Also, I'm an organizer of the PowerShell user group in Germany. So if you want to speak or if you want to hang out, we do this nearly every third or second Thursday every month. So just ping me if you want to speak or hang out. And my day-to-day job, I specialize in automation and infrastructure design. So what are we speaking today? We are going briefly over what is a DevContainer, just touching what is PowerShell Universal, and then we do demo. So, who was in the session before? Jess and Rob? Yeah, definitely you. Okay, good. So we will touch briefly what is a DevContainer. So, it is an open specification. So you have a website here that I link in the slides where you can check what can you do with the DevContainer. And it's a standardized development environment for a specific use case. So they showed before how to prepare for a workshop. Let's imagine you have a Node or a Java project or so you can download the right container, extend it with extensions and settings and so on. I will show that in my demo. And it can be used with editors, tools, and services. So we have 2 editors that are available, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. I will use Visual Studio Code like the presentation before, because that's my daily driver also. We have the DevContainer CLI and the DevContainer extension. I will use also the DevContainer extension like in the talk before, but I think the DevContainer CLI is fairly new. And then they showed it before also. You have the service GitHub Code Spaces where you can run this also. Who knows what GitHub Code Spaces is? Oh, that's very, very little people. So GitHub Code Spaces is a service where you can spin up it's kind of VM, a working environment, and you can consume this. So you have a VS Code in the browser that's hosted by GitHub, and you can, if you have your code in GitHub, you can develop there and commit and so on. You can also synchronize the code space with your local VS Code if you want to do this. So how does the DevContainer in VS Code work? I have the same slide as the guys before me. The guys and girls, sorry. So you have your local OS where your local VS Code is living. So you have your personalized VS Code with the X extension you have and the settings. You have your source code. Then you open the DevContainer. So you have a container, and this container is inside the VS Code server with all the extensions, and it talks to our local VS Code. So and with this, you can define, okay, these are the extensions that I want. This is the settings that I want. And you also have your source code mounted inside of your DevContainer. And it has, of course, its own file system. Yeah. Any questions to this? Or everything good? Okay, perfect. So what is PowerShell Universal? Has anyone worked with PowerShell Universal here in the room? Okay, nearly everyone. So I think we will touch very briefly about this. So it's a platform for creating administrative tools. We have here the automation piece. So you can schedule your scripts. You can have it return PowerShell in the browser. So you can replace Task Scheduler if you want with this. We have your web APIs, so you can create RESTful endpoints, also with authentication if you are licensed. And I think the most important is the apps piece. So you can create React-based websites with only PowerShell code. So the PowerShell code will be translated in the background to a React-based website. Good. Demos. We love demos. So before I have created some stuff. So before we even can run our dev containers, we need to have WSL and Docker installed. So who knows what WSL is? Windows Subsystem for Linux. So it's a Linux kernel that runs inside Windows. If you don't have WSL installed, if you are on a new machine, you can just type WSL-install and it will install WSL and I think the Ubuntu distro, I think. I also installed PowerShell, Visual Studio Code Insider, Git, and Docker Desktop, because you also need Docker Desktop via Winget. If you need to use Git, you have to configure it first. We are all forgetting the user name and user email till it bugs us for the first time. And I created some folder structure because we have to persist our data, because if we kill the container, then everything is lost. So I created some folder structure. We have a simple we have a simple example where the data folder is important. Everything that Universal will be storing inside of the container is persisted to the local to my local hard drive. And for the second example, we use a Docker Compose with SQL Server also. So we need to persist the data files. So, and that's why I created the folder structure here. Good. Let's look at the first example. So just for showing how to create a dev container, you don't have to come up with the JSON file for yourself. So you press F1, Control-Shift-P or something to show up the command palette. You type dev containers. Before you get the dev containers, you actually need the dev containers extension. So if we go to the marketplace, let's go here. I have installed it already. So if you go here, you see here the dev containers extension. You also can install the remote development pack where you get even more remote extensions, but only the dev container extensions needed for this. And if you have this, then you can type dev containers. And where is it? Add dev container configuration files. I want to have add a configuration to user data folder, for example. Let's see. Let's see if everything works. Yeah. Then you have here some predefined dev containers already. So let's say I want to have Python, for example. And here I can add some additional features. So for example, if I want to have one password CLI or something like this inside, I can just check it, type OK, then I get the dev container file created inside of my folder structure. But I don't need this because I already created one. So let's go over the settings here. So should I make this a bit bigger, I think? Is it okay? Does this look okay? Okay, good. So I give my container a name. It's PowerShell_Universal. I tell it which image to pull. In my case, I will pull the Ironman Software Universal latest. If you want to always have the latest image, so you can pin it. So you just have to check Docker Hub, which versions are available, and you can select. I will execute also a post create command. So the post create command is executed when the container is finished and the connection is there. I will run universal.server because Adam doesn't also know this. I have talked to him before why universal.server doesn't start up in a dev containers environment. So I run the post command of executing universal.server. So let's see. Here we have some forwarded ports. Universal, as you all know, is a web application. It runs normally on port 5000. So I configured it to forward a port to my local machine. I also provided some environment variables. So Europe Berlin is my time zone, and the node name has to be PSU simple. And here is the secret sauce for mounting for making everything persistent. So PowerShell Universal in the Docker container is in a /root folder. So everything that is in the /root folder will be persisted out to my data folder on my local machine. And here's the secret sauce. So you have some customizations. So I customized my VS Code in my dev container to use my settings that I use PWSH, push, or how it is called, as my standard PowerShell. And here I have a specific PowerShell Universal connection setting. So that only the extension PowerShell Universal understands. I create a new connection container, URL, localhost 5000, and this is my app token. And yeah, this is only my app token, so you cannot do anything with this. And I also want to have some extensions running inside of my dev container. I want to have my PowerShell extension running and also the extension that Ironman Software provides. So Ironman Software PowerShell-Universal. So if we want to start the dev container, we have also a command in the command palette for this. Rebuild without cache and reopen in container, or you can, for the first time, you can just reopen in container because VS Code Server caches all your extensions and your settings. And if you add something to this, this can cause crisis. So I rebuild without cache and reopen in container. If you do this, let's cross our fingers, this is working. Perfect. Your VS Code reloads. And here you see it's opening a remote. I will just show the log. It will get a connection to Docker. It will create the dev container. It will pull the image if it's not already done. And let's wait some time. Yana. So here it's working. And let's see if it starts up. Yes, nice. So here we are in the post create command. So it starts the universal.server now. So let's see here if we press F5, session expires. That's good. Perfect. I have my universal is loading. That looks good. Fingers crossed. I think it's loading up here. Yeah, it's still loading. Let's see. We have time. Yeah, perfect. We are on time. So I can log in with my standard credential. So, and here you see I've already defined an endpoint. So if you know the folder structure that Universal creates, you can pre-create it in the data folder and it will pull it up. Or like I did, I went in, created it, and it is persisted because the data folder where I created earlier has this all inside here. Good. So if you are working, if you're creating another endpoint or so, it gets persisted. So, and you see, yeah, we have this typical Hello World endpoint. The Hello World endpoint works. So let's see if we have something else inside here. I think not. No user interfaces, no apps. We have here a nice dashboard. Yeah. So that's the first demo. Do you have questions for this? And also to show that this is working also, I have the PowerShell Universal extension here. Let's wait. It's connected to my development environment. And I can see I have here my API. I can open the API if I want. Here I have the API. And if I want to check where is it? The apps here. I also can open this one and can develop against my local copy And if I'm done, I can close the dev container, which I will do. So just reopen folder locally. Dev container is destroyed. So I can show you here. If you go to refresh page, it shouldn't answer because the dev container is closed. So, any questions to this scenario? No questions? Okay, good. Then we will look at a more advanced example, because I think everyone in here, if you use PowerShell Universal in a production environment, have licensed Universal, right? Okay. So you can use more features, like, for example, use a SQL Server as a backend. So you can have you can have a database where the settings are in and your executions of the jobs and so on. So I created what is called Docker Compose file to run 2 containers in parallel inside of Docker, spin them up at the same time, connect them to each other, and mount the data folder and the data files folder for our SQL Server. So let's take a look at this. So here the Docker Compose file, I have 2 services here. Our services represents our containers that we are going to use. We are using the RMN Software Universal latest image. We link to our DB server. So there will be a network created in the background where the 2 containers can speak to each other and build a connection. And I use an environment variable also where I tell Universal to use the SQL plugin and put the connection string for the SQL Server here. So our data source is DB, like the name of the service. Our initial catalog is PSU. I want the database to name PSU. The user ID is SA, and the password is the password of the SA account. And here I have the SQL Server 2022 image. I make it a SQL Server Developer Edition image, and I accept the EULA, and I want to have the SA password to be password 123. And here I have my volume mounts. So everything that is in var opt MS SQL data, where the data files are living, the data and the log files, will persist it out to our data files folder, and SQL Server automatically puts it up. And we also, the same as we showed before, the root folder will persist it to our data folder that we have on my machine. So I created the dev container folder and created inside here 2 folders. One is for DB and one is for PSU. Let's look at the DB portion. The DB portion uses not the image anymore. It uses the Docker Compose file. So like we were showed before, we are using the Docker Compose file. We have to reference the service. So if we check our Docker Compose file, we have here the DB service and the PSU service. So in our DB file, we have to reference the DB service. We reference the shutdown action should be none, and we only forward the port 1433. That's the standard SQL port. With PSU, it's like a bit bigger, the configuration. We also reference the same Docker Compose file. We will use the service PSU like we were showed in the Docker Compose YAML before. We configured our settings, so like the same. App token is different. I installed also the SQL Server extension inside of it. So I created a connection that we can administer the database with inside of our dev container environment. So I added the MS SQL extension here. And I also forward the port 5000, and that's it. So let's reopen the rebuild. Okay, yeah. So, and it now asks me, okay, which container would I work in? I choose the PSU container, and it will create my environment now. Let's see if everything went well or goes well. So it starts up. See if we see the Docker Compose part here. Yeah, here you see the Docker Compose part here. And then let's see, let's wait for that everything is running. Yeah. I think we see. Let's press F5 again. Good. Because we don't have the home page here. Yeah. Good. Let's log in. We are in the node PSU Advanced, so everything is working here. So let's look at our API endpoints. We also have the default API endpoints. I think I didn't have a automation scripts. Also have the same dashboard, I think, in here. Let's see. This is formatted different, so I'm a different container. Good. And to prove to you that everything else is working, so we have here the SQL Server extension here. Also, the universal connection is working. Let's give it a sec. Yeah, this is working. And here, because we have defined a connection earlier, let's play the waiting game. Yeah, yeah, like, definitely. Sorry for this. Yeah, here we have our connections. Go to the connection. Here we have our databases. And yeah, if we want to, for example, here go to this one, select the top 1,000. We got some data back. If we click in here, let's see. Yes. So we got one result, PSU Advanced. That's our server. The last heartbeat was today. So, do you have any questions about it? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I tried it with depends on. Yeah. Sorry. So thank you very much. So the question is, why didn't I use depends on to get the database started after the PSU is created? Let's see. I haven't tested. I have tested it, but it didn't work for me. So I used the links portion, and I didn't have any problems with the running order. So I haven't faced the problem that the DB is not starting or that the containers are not starting in the right order. But I think this could be a good idea. So if you have problems with it, try it with this. But I haven't faced the problem. Any other questions? Could also ask me about Universal if you want. If you have any problems. Yeah.
Is your repo available on GitHub?
My question, the question is the repo available? At the moment, no, because it's private. But I will open it after the session, do a pull request in the PSConfEU, 24 repo, so that you can have an example. So, any other questions? Rob asked me before, how does the token appear in my configuration? So that's a bit of a trick that I did before. So I have to speak to Adam if this is possible to put what's called a standard token inside of the Universal, because at the default level you don't have a token. So you have to go inside of Universal. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I think is it in platform, or is it in security? I think it is. Thank you very much. Here you have your tokens, and I created a token, copied the token, copied it inside of my configuration, and stopped and started the container, and the connection works. So the token persisted in the container that I used. So that's a bit of cheating to use the extension. So, but I think I have to talk to Adam if it's possible to get a token before. So write something like a pre-create script to get a token, put it directly in the config file, and but I haven't asked it, but Rob asked the question in the speaker room, so I think it's fair to do it, because you don't have to cheat to do something like this. Yeah. Any other questions around Universal Dev containers? I think we have nearly 2 minutes. Okay, then. Thank you for being to my talk. I hope you find some value in it. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.